This one courtesy of Adam Schefter, win and in. So you want to talk about clinching playoff spots in Week 16 with the victory. There you go, right? Just across the board. The Seattle Seahawks, the Philadelphia Eagles, the New England Patriots, and the San Francisco 49ers. And there are the DraftKings odds that you can see as a part of if these teams can get it done. There's a lot of different playoff clinching scenarios this week, as is typical this time of year in the National Football League, right? Like 9 teams can clinch. If you look at the big picture, of course, those 4 when it comes to win and they're in scenarios. As I said, the Thursday night game is absolutely terrific. And we'll pick that game coming up in just a bit here when you talk about the Los Angeles Rams and the Seattle Seahawks. 2 teams that I certainly would not be surprised if we see playing in Santa Clara come Super Bowl Sunday in February. But there are some other teams that have something to say about that. And you don't even have to go past the division to think about it, right? I mean, the San Francisco 49ers are right there in the mix. And you sort of, Khalin, like you scratch your head and you think about all the injuries that they have had. And yet there they are, sitting there at 10-4, currently the 6th seed, because of the depth in the NFC at this point in the season. The Rams currently sitting there as the 1 seed. Then you have the Chicago Bears, the Philadelphia Eagles, of course, who play the Commanders come Saturday in the early game of a doubleheader. The Tampa Bay Bucks, were thrilled that Carolina fell to the New Orleans Saints, and they stumbled, and then they watched Carolina stumble right after them. Seattle sitting there in the 5 spot, as I said, San Francisco at 6, and Green Bay last team in right now in the 7 spot. Notably, on the outside looking in, probably more than any of those other teams. Who knows what's going to happen with Carolina, but the Detroit Lions, of course, sitting there on the outside looking in, which I think is a surprise to many. But look, I mean, the NFC this season, Khalin, I mean, it is a juggernaut, right? I mean, that's just the reality. And it just feels like they're all going to beat each other up until we find out who's going to be there as the representative on Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah, Jade, you're absolutely right. And there are great records in the AFC, as we've talked about with the Patriots and the Broncos and teams like that. These NFC teams are for real. They are for real, for real. I am just shocked. Not shocked. I'm just, every time the Rams get out there on the field and they drop 40 points, it's just like seeing art in motion. This offense is so fun to watch. And I'm so excited for this Thursday night football game. And look, you look at the Seahawks, they eked out a win against Old Man Rivers last week, which still one of the best storylines to watch in, I think, the entirety of this regular season was Phillip Rivers going out there and throwing more touchdowns than Sam Darnold did in that game. And it was the Seattle Jason Myerses with his 6 field goals. But here on Thursday, you're going to need more than field goals to beat the Rams. That much is for sure. So yeah, the NFC is a conference that has some legit contenders. I think the Rams, obviously they're the 1 seed, but you look on the field, what they've been able to accomplish, I think they're far and away the best team in the NFC. And for my money, they're going to be the representative in the Super Bowl. But there are these teams, and Jade, I think you said it, they're going to beat each other up here. We're going to see, obviously, this game on Thursday. We're going to see what the Bears can do here against the Packers again in a rematch from Thursday Night Football on the Thanksgiving Day game. So there's a lot going on here, and I really like that a lot of these teams are playing against each other, or at least jostling against each other this late in the season. There's a lot of intrigue going on. It starts here on Thursday, but the Seahawks need to figure out their offense, and Sam Darnold's need to figure out some stuff too. I mean, this offense in the past couple of games has not looked like the well-oiled machine that it was earlier on this season. The running game hasn't been great. Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet are not the two-headed monster that maybe they were early on in the season. So against this ferocious Rams defense, it's going to be a struggle. I think the Rams, I mean, we're going to get into picks here in a moment, but I think the Rams are just a better team, and it's going to come down to the QBs here. But Stafford has just been lights out all season long, and I think that's going to continue here against the Seahawks. Yeah,
I mean, we've seen Darnold throw more picks in games than Stafford has thrown all season, right? I mean, like it's that's kind of the reality. But I would say that you talk about the first time that those teams met this season,
Absolutely.
And the Seahawks were a 61-yard field goal away from winning that game. winning it, despite the fact that he had thrown all those picks in the game. So if they can get things going offensively, and I think part of that's going to mean getting their run game going against this Rams defense, I would not count Seattle out of this game. Let's take a look on the AFC side, though, real quick. Where things stand, obviously impactful for New England. Denver leading the way, sitting there at 12-2 after getting a big win last Sunday. The Patriots are sitting there at 11-3. The Jags and Trevor Lawrence's 6 touchdowns last weekend, they're sitting there in the 3 spot at 10-4. The Steelers occupying the North. It is this year, the North. It's just like that. Like, it's just the drop, right? All of a sudden you see 8 wins and it's like, what is it going to take to win this division? Oh my goodness. And then you have, the Chargers, who still have a lot to play for. Buffalo, of course, who has a ton to play for, sitting there in the 6th spot. Nobody's going to want to play Josh Allen. And right now the Texans are the last team in at 9-5. And of course, most notably for New England with a matchup come Sunday night, are the Baltimore Ravens, sitting there at 7-7 on the outside looking in. There's a number of different ways that this could go with a couple of weeks to go here, which is exactly what the NFL wants, right? I mean, parity is their best friend. So they're thrilled with the way some of these matchups are going to come down. But I think, for New England purposes, it is a matter of everything that they want is still right there in front of them. They just have to go out there and take it. And you have to make sure that Buffalo and what happens last Sunday is, as we heard Garrett Bradbury talking about, a lesson and not a loss, right? Like, you can take that and make it a lesson and drive forward and achieve everything that you have put your mind to.
And Jade, I'm not going to sit here and say that going on the road and taking down the Ravens is going to completely eliminate the sting of that collapse against the Bills. But man, wouldn't it be just such a great step in the right direction and just a prove-it point that this team, obviously, they had that great winning streak. They were tested a few times in that winning streak. They had the game against the Bucs that was close, but other than that, they were really running roughshod on a lot of the teams that they played. But hey, you stumble, and going on the road where you're undefeated right now, playing a team that has a great rushing offense, which is perfectly complementary to one of the issues that we've been talking about all show long and basically this entire week with the Patriots rushing defense. That would just be such a great moment for Drake May to go out there and the coaching staff to go out there and say, we stumbled, but we're gonna go out and really show that we can fix these problems. And we talked about the AFC playoff picture. Those 2 teams on the bottom, the Bills and the Texans, those are the most dangerous teams to me outside the Patriots in this playoff picture. And this is something that you and I have talked about. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. The Broncos had that really great win. Bo Nix played very, very well in his game last week. But again, I don't think that this Broncos team is as good as the Bills. I don't know how they're going to fare if they end up playing the Texans in a second-round game or something like that, depending on how these things shake out. This Texans defense is insane. You look at the playoff picture once again, the way that it looks, the Texans playing against the Patriots scheduled or projected to right now. But look at the other teams. The Jags did all that against the Jets. I'm still not convinced. Chargers don't have an O-line. The Steelers, again, I really have no confidence in that Steelers team after what we've seen all season long, not just what we saw last week. So, look, I think it's going to come down to the 4 teams that I mentioned, the Broncos, the Texans, the Patriots, and the Bills. And of those 4, that's when the dogfight really begins. So it's going to be really interesting. And then you look on the other side, we just talked about the NFC. The Rams look like their strongest team, but again, can't count out these other teams. I think the Bears might make some noise if they end up taking down the Packers here in that rematch like I talked about. They're going to be looking at a 1 seed potentially if the Seahawks can take care of business as well. So a lot going on, a lot of intrigue. I love that this is the case here in Week 15. I love that we have some new faces, some new QBs, not the same old teams that we've come to talk about. So this is a great time in the NFL, right? I mean, all of this intrigue here in Week 15 going forward is really cool.
Yeah, look, I mean, and you mentioned some new faces, right? The stat that has been floating around, and I remember seeing this several weeks ago, right? That this would be the case if and when the Chiefs were eliminated, and then of course that was exactly what happened. It's been 27 years, so you got to go back to 1998. First postseason since 1998 without Brady, Peyton, or Patrick Mahomes. I mean, that is staggering. Like when you actually pause and think about that, Colin, like the ability that those three players had to consistently get to the playoffs year in and year out, that this is the first time in 27 years that we're not going to be watching one of them. It's staggering. And and obviously Patrick Mahomes has a big, recovery and rehab ahead of him, given the significant knee injury that he went down with. What is it going to mean for the Chiefs as a whole? For Andy Reid, obviously, who has been at it for a very long time in this game and certainly one of the greatest coaches to coach in the National Football League, from his time in Philadelphia to his time in Kansas City. But for this to be a playoff with some new faces, and obviously, there's some guys that have been around a little bit. We saw one of them leading the charge in Foxborough last weekend when it comes to Josh Allen. Matt Stafford, obviously, one of those guys as well. But what is it going to mean when it's all said and done? It's going to be a very exciting couple of weeks to watch how this all unfolds, needless to say.